Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus A330 pilot, and welcome to today's review of the flight dynamics in the iniBuilds Airbus A340. First of all, if I do sound a little bit strange today, then yeah, that is expected. Visited a concert yesterday and you can kind of guess what that did to my voice. So if I do sound a bit strange, then my apologies for that. Now, for this video, I was lucky enough that a friend of mine could lend me his Mosa Force feedback stick, and together with a profile from V1 simulation, that thing just feels like an exact Airbus stick. Now, for this reason, if the iniBuild is like really good, since the A330 and the A340 share most of the flight control laws, I should basically be able to fly this airplane by muscle memory. So let's see how that's gonna go. In this video we are going to take off on Frankfurt's runway 25 center. We will do a little bit of air work and then come back for a visual traffic pattern for landing on 25 center once again. So that's really the type of flying where you need the most accurate inputs and where you need to be able to do things like as accurate as possible. So really looking forward to this, and something that I want to say straight away is that in this video we will not be examining any exact climb performance table and stuff like that, because obviously there is a little discussion going on in the flight sim community, but that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to have a look at how the airplane reacts to your side stick inputs, and generally if the flight dynamics follow the real-world flight control laws of the Airbus A340. And with that out of the way, I suggest we are going to take a seat over here on the captain's seat. Frankfurt Lufthansa A340-300 in the EAS-1 configuration, and we've done all the takeoff performance calculation exactly according to the electronic flight bag. However, there is one thing that I do want to add at this point. Some of you said that the A340 would be accelerating too much during the takeoff run. Now, something I noticed with the iniBuilds A330 in the past is that the iniBuilds performance calculator seems to give you less of a flex temperature than the real-world performance tool would. And for that reason, at least the A330 seemed a bit overpowered on takeoff run, while when using the real figures, so when I took my real-world EFB, typed those figures into the FMS, then the airplane would actually feel pretty spot on. So maybe that is a little bit of an issue with the performance calculator from iniBuilds over here, because let's face it, we're at 180 tons gross weight of an airplane that can weigh 100 tons more, and it gives me a flex of only 53. Doesn't seem quite accurate. I would expect the flex temperature in the region of 60 degrees plus. But we're going to take the figures that it's calculated for us over here, and we'll be flying the airplane with that because we don't have a real-world performance tool for the A340 at hand right now. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and go for it. The parking brake is released. Let's start the timer, and then we will take off on runway 25 center over here. Now, pitch and power values for this one, once we're airborne, we need 12.5 degrees pitch, and with that we should be able to maintain our speed. Alright, Manflex 53, SRS, runway, auto thrust blue, and thrust set. So, reaching and passing 80, stick slowly goes back to neutral, 100 knots, checked. I forgot to align the standby. Alright, that looks better.
D1.
Rotate. So the nose does come off the ground a little bit early. You should need a stick at about the cross at about the 10-degree mark there for the airplane to lift off. So nose comes off at about the 5-degree mark. That's a little bit too early. Something they're hopefully going to improve. On the other end side here, pitch 12.5 degrees. Speed is constant. Looks very good. So reaching the acceleration altitude. So speed out cruise heading, and then we can go flaps 1, and I'll activate the approach phase straight away so that we maintain the airspeed on auto thrust. Alright, let's level off in 1800, then we are going to turn off the flight directors, turn on the bird, and then let's start with our left-hand turn. Now, first thing I can say over here is the turns, and they feel pretty damn good. I mean, this really feels like the A330 that I'm used to flying, and well, 330, 340 should fly the same. So that is pretty good and convincing there. One thing that is worth mentioning is the delay with the input. So look at my stick down here. I'm going to do an input, and you'll notice some delay on the reaction of the aircraft. So input, reaction. And that's indeed how these aircraft should fly. And yes, that makes it a bit of a challenge to be able to fly them accurately. You can see you need to release the stick a little bit earlier than at the target bank for the airplane to level off. And that is absolutely realistic. You'll also note that we are really pulling the aircraft up and down only very gently. So we're at 1900 now. Let's descend to 1800. You can see very slight forward input. And that's all it needs. And indeed, I tend to say that my muscle memory serves me well over here. And the airplane really responds quite similar to what I would expect. Now let's go ahead and do a couple of exercises here. Because, well, that's just the best way to find out how good the flight dynamics actually are. So we are going to start with a steep turn to the right. We'll take a heading of 150 over here. Actually, I tell you what, let's turn to 070 so that we don't fly too far from the airport, so that when we want to come back for a landing, we don't have to cover like an entirely long distance there. Now let's go ahead and establish ourselves on the heading 070, and once that is done, we will start with a little bit of air work. Okay, so 070 is approaching. Let's roll wings level once again. And here we are. Okay. So we're going to do a steep turn left, a steep turn right, and those are basically very good exercises to get a feel for how the airplane performs. So let's do that. We'll start with a steep turn to the left, 45 degrees of bank. As we're going through 30, we need to pull a little bit. And here we go, 45 degrees. We need a constant input on the stick because the fly-by-wire tries to roll the plane level again. And that actually feels quite good. Auto thrust is a little bit slow to react though, to recover our speed. Let's take over and do that ourselves. As always, basic Airbus philosophy: when the plane doesn't do what you want it to do, take over. And with a little bit more thrust, the thing actually works pretty fine. Alright, so this feels quite good indeed. Let's roll out on a heading of 070, and I don't think we need to do a turn into the other direction. We can definitely say that this feels quite good. Okay, and the heading is approaching. Let's roll out. Now, let's do another test here, and that's the maximum roll rate that the aircraft should be able to achieve. So we should get, with full side stick deflection, a roll rate of 15 degrees per second. That means, with full stick deflection, it should take 2 seconds to get us from 0 to 30 degrees. So, let's do that, and have a little look on the timer down there. So at 25, I will initiate the roll. Now. And it took us about a second longer, including a little bit of the delay. So let's roll back. We should need 4 seconds to get to 30 degrees the opposite side. We'll start at 40 on the timer. Here we go. And takes us about a second longer. I mean, with the input delay that this airplane type has, that is acceptable, I would say. And to be completely honest, I never tried to roll with full stick deflection on the real one. I only know that one from the full flight sim, and the full flight sim is a little bit more laggy than the real aircraft, so that the training is a bit more effective. So I tend to say this is okay. This is within what I would expect. Now let's go ahead and try one more, and that's just to try the protections of the aircraft. So let's roll it to 60 or 67 degrees of bank and see what's gonna happen. The fly-by-wire should stop the roll over there. Need quite a bit of pulling, and yep, this is accurate. So you can see my stick's deflected to the right. Plane doesn't let me roll any further. That is okay. Now let's just return the stick to neutral, and that should return the plane to 33 degrees of bank, and it does. Alright, so that's looking quite good generally. Now let's do a little bit of, let's say, dynamic stuff over here. Also just retracted our flaps as we went over 200 knots, so let's just go flaps 2. And yeah, put me in the relief, that's fine. So basically what we want to do is to get the slats back out, that we just got to reduce our speed. Let's climb back to 1800, that should reduce our speed nicely. And now let's get ourselves into a position to fly the visual approach. So my feedback on the flight dynamics so far, rotation should take a little bit more backstick. However, that seems to be a problem with many flight sim aircraft. Like the iFly, the PMDG, they all do the same. The only one that really has it right, I think, is the Phoenix 320, and I do believe the iniDuilds is good there as well. Alright, so let's go to flaps 2, wait until they're extended, and we'll go back to flaps 1, that should keep us in 1+F. Okay, so very quick word on how to fly traffic pattern in the aircraft. We want to be in 1500 AGL, which is 1800 on the altimeter for us. Then we are going to fly on the downwind for 3 seconds for each 100 feet above the ground. So that's going to be like 45 seconds, minus the tailwind component, which, looking over here, seems to be about 5 knots. So that makes it 40 seconds on the downwind. Alright, so let's go back to config 1+F now. And here we go. The reason we want to be in 1+F instead of config 1 is because otherwise we are just getting an enormous pitch attitude. So in level flight, the A340 should have about 7.5 degrees pitch when you're at the S speed in config 1. Note that we're in 1+F right now, and the flat part of that really brings the pitch down, so that is quite okay. Actually, on some of the flights I recorded for you guys so far, I did try config 1 and the S speed, and the pitch actually seemed rather accurate there at 7.5 degrees. Okay, so let's now get back to the airport to start the visual approach, and while we're doing that, let's talk a little bit about the flight characteristics in terms of how quickly the airplane climbs. A lot of you have noticed that the airplane climbs faster than what you guys think it should climb at. And I tend to say that that is true to a certain extent. When you're using the climb D-rates, it climbs really well. But when you're not using the D-rates, that's when it is climbing a little bit too fast indeed. Okay, so let's go down here and just quickly create a direct to the runway, and radial in is going to be 066. Activate, thank you. So 066 downwind track. That's looking good, like it should. We're 2.5 miles from the center line, which is perfect for a traffic pattern. And then while we are on the downwind here, let's quickly fill out the FMS. So QNH is 1013, temperature 15, wind calm. We don't need a minimum, this is going to be config full. So destination data is all tracked, this is all looking good. The clock is reset so that our timer is ready. We're in 1+F, spoilers are already already armed. Looks excellent to me, so we're ready to start the traffic pattern. So once we're visually abeam the runway threshold, we are going to start the timing. What I'm also going to do is to select auto brake low for this one. And we are now basically 2.5 miles. 2.4 right now, will be 2.5 in a second. So that we can enter an actual downwind. So let's get that speed straight onto the S-speed. The way the speed handles in this airplane is actually pretty nice. So I do like that. Alright, so there's our landing runway threshold. So once we beam that, we will start the timing. Track 066. Looks good. And we are a beam timing. So now we're flying out for 40 seconds. The tailwind is basically 5 knots. Let's try to keep an accurate speed over here. So reaching 30 seconds, we will extend the flaps into position 2. What I expect that's going to happen is that the pitch should come down a little bit. But most importantly, the airplane will start a little climb. So I'm completely off the controls, flaps 2. And indeed the airplane does start a little climb. I know that the manuals say that it is going to correct for that, but no, it doesn't. At least not perfectly in the real world. Neither does the iniBuilds. Okay then, let's turn base. We started the turn a little bit later. For that reason I'm not going to start descending just yet. When we're on base we'll get the landing gear and config 3. So, there's our landing runway over there. Can we see the puppy just yet? No, we can't. Or can we? Yeah, we can. 3 whites. Okay. In that case, starting the descent. Gear down. So, set runway track. 246. Flaps 3. Alright, we're on the puppy. And turning fine. Flaps full. Speed checked. Flaps full. Alright, 3 reds, correcting for that.
1000.
Checked. In the real world it's a little bit easier with looking around, because, well, you don't need a mouse for that. Something that I like that iniBuilds have captured well is how sensitive the throttles are, very close to the typical landing settings. So you really need to do very, very small throttle inputs to control that aircraft. And they've captured that really nicely. Okay, so we're now established on the puppy. We are on the center line. Now, for the flare, we should start the flare at 40 feet and just pitch up a degree or 2, maximum.
400.
And then it should nicely settle on the runway. Idle at 30 feet, or when the airplane calls retard.
300.
And that's that. Now, you should feel the landing on the aft boogie first, and then feel the landing on the front
200.
boogie, and then fly the landing gear down. This is a little bit problematic in this sim. Gotta admit that. But you'll see in a moment. You should feel 3
100.
touchdowns. First the aft part of the wheels, then the forward boogie, and then the nose wheel.
50.
Let's see how that's gonna
40,
go. So
30,
flare.
20
Idle.
yard. 10.
That's very nice. And here we go. So let's fly that nose wheel down. Alright. And we've got spoilers, reverse green, decel. The auto brake, in my opinion, is a little bit strong. Like, it should achieve a certain deceleration rate, and that rate should basically get us out at the exit over there, not the exit over here. Don't ask me how I know. And you do usually even need a little bit of manual braking from 70 knots to make this. So the auto brake decelerates a little bit too strong, in my opinion. Hopefully something that they are gonna fix for a future update. Well, and with that, welcome back to Frankfurt. Now, just fitting for a flight dynamics video is also something on the ground dynamics, because I think iniBuilds have really captured a characteristic of the airplane very nicely here. And that's the fact that it loses a lot of speed when you are using a strong tiller input. So let's pretend we kind of missed that taxi line over here. We'll steer straight towards the taxiway center line up there. And once reaching that, I am going to use full tiller input from 10 knots on in order to turn to the right back onto the taxiway. And then have a look at the ground speed and what's going to happen to it. Alright, so let's go full tiller right. Now look at the ground speed. I'm not sitting on the brakes here. You can see how much speed we're losing until it would eventually stop in the turn. So we need a little bit of power to get us through that turn. For that reason, always use at least 5 knots going into a steep turn and then give it a little bit of power. If you've got several throttles, use the outer engines to help it. But that's really something worth showing over here, because iniBuilds have captured that nicely. Apart from that, the turn radius seems to look right, and I can turn the airplane exactly when I'm used to from the 330. And remember, 330 and 340, 300 have the same fuselage lengths and the same landing gear positions, so it actually taxis pretty much like what I would expect it to taxi. Well, and that's everything I can show you today. So let me know how you liked this video. Leave your feedback in the comments underneath. My feedback most certainly is that iniBuilds have captured the flight model of the airplane pretty well. I do enjoy flying it this way, and with the Mosa stick and the correct forces needed on the stick, I can really say that the airplane behaves pretty accurately. I wouldn't call it 100%, but it gets pretty close, which for Microsoft Flight Simulator is probably the best we're gonna get. Now, let me know your feedback in the comments underneath, and before you're asked, yes, I will do a review on the Mosa stick before I have to return it to the friend whom I landed it from, but for the time being, that's all I got for you. So thank you very much for watching. As always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.